Welcome to the webcast. Feel free to ask your questions during the presentation by entering them in the space provided. They will be answered after the presentation. We wish you a good webcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar from Scale AI, hosted by Scale AI on Research Chair Launch. It's my pleasure to be your host today. My name is Julien Billot. I'm the CEO of Scale AI. And to begin, I want to recognize people that made this Research Chair Launch possible. First and foremost, Hélène Desmarais, our co-chair, was totally instrumental to build this program, and also some professors that were absolutely keen the launch of Scale AI. I want to name Pearl Sullivan from Waterloo University, Gilles Savard from Polytechnique, Andrea Lodi also from Polytechnique. To them, we were able to create this program, and I'm very happy to present this program on behalf of the work they have done in the past. But before beginning the program, I want to first give some instructions to participants. First, this webinar is being recorded. So if you miss it, or if you miss some piece of it, you can still see it again. It will be on our website and it's recorded. You can ask questions. You can use, if you are familiar with Zoom, the chat in Zoom to ask us questions. Isabelle Turcotte, our VP Marketing, will take the question and I can answer the questions at the end. So you can ask questions anytime. I will be happy to answer them at the end. And of course, you can obtain more information by connecting to our website, scaleai.ca. Later in the presentation, I will show you where you can have access to this presentation, some documents, and extra information on this program. So where is Scale AI coming from? We are a governmental body, and we were created to be an investment and innovation hub focused on accelerating the adoption of artificial intelligence in supply chain. And to do that, we have access to funds, most of them through federal funding, up to $230 million, but also from funding from Quebec, the government of Quebec, of $53 million. In total, we have access to $283 million to promote and accelerate the adoption and commercialization of artificial intelligence in the supply chain industry. Our mandate is very simple, and of course, you will see that has a link with the work we want to do on chairs, because our mandate is to bring AI from lab to the field. And obviously, we need more AI coming from the lab to be able to have it in the field, so our work on the research program. But also, we want to empower Canada as a hub for intelligent supply chains. And that's very important for us because Canada is a stronghold for supply chains. With the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, Canada holds a unique position in supply chain for North America. And obviously, helping Canada introduce more AI for supply chain operation can leverage Canada's position as a hub in North America or a worldwide hub for intelligent supply chains. So our mandate is really to bring all we can do to industry. We are coming from the Supercluster Initiative launched by the federal government back in 2017. That's $1 billion commitment from the federal government, 5 superclusters that was selected in 2018 and began their operation in 2019, end of May 2019 for Scale AI. The first one in British Columbia on digital technology, the second one in Saskatchewan, Alberta on protein innovation, the third one in Southern Ontario on Industry 4.0, Scale AI in Montreal to power supply chain with AI, and Ocean Technology in St. John's, Newfoundland is the 5th supercluster. We were supported by a lot of partners in our beginning, partners from various industries. Actually, some of you on the phone were part of our initial partners. I want to name University of Waterloo, University of Toronto, University of Alberta. They were in the first partners for Scale AI. A lot of industrial partners, a lot of partners from the service providers, industry, also governmental partners, all together rallied to create the Scale AI consortium and won the bid in 2017. Our programs are, so the $283 million, of course, is divided in multiple programs. I want to name it's 4, and actually in one program we have 2, so in between 4 and 5 programs, depending on the way you look at that. But our programs are basically 4 big programs. One is the main program, our project funding. We are here as a program, an industry-based program. Our goal is to fund projects that aim to introduce AI in supply chain operations. That's more or less 2/3 of our funding will go to fund projects. Acceleration program is a program dedicated to incubators and accelerators. It's more or less 15% of our money will go to this program. The goal is to help SMEs and startups grow and thrive in our ecosystem when they do AI or supply chain technology. And 1/4 of our funding, which is a very important funding, will go to our workforce development program. We call it also our talent program. And in this program, a big portion of it will go to academic program, including the research chair program I'm presenting today. So the program I'm presenting today was initially part of the initial Scale AI submission, and is really part of the core of what we presented and what we want to achieve as a supercluster. If you go to the next slide, you can see that the 5 programs we are really working on. 2 are industrial one. One is the adoption program that's really dedicated to companies who want to introduce AI in their supply chain operation. The second is more about companies who create platforms and solution providers who want to add AI to existing or new solutions to develop solutions for supply chain. The third one is, as I said, support to help SME scale up, mainly through incubators and accelerators. And the fourth one is really about talent and workforce development. And the chair research program I'm presenting today is part of it. The fifth one is more how to put the glue around the programs, managing our ecosystem and being sure that academia, industry, and other people are connecting together to really work in collaboration and create projects all together. So that's our strategic axis and our strategic framework. We are existing, as I said, since end of May 2019. We have already funded actually a significant amount of projects. Not all of them are public right now. The one which are public and where we communicated, $82 million of project value, including a little less than $30 million invested by Scale AI, $52 million invested by industry. As you can see, a broad range of projects involving companies from various origins, big companies, Air Canada, CAE, Ravel, Cadillac Fairview, Thales, but also local companies coming from across the country, Stream from Alberta, OVA from Montreal, Nulogy Local Line from Ontario, Raymond from Quebec. So a lot of companies, various companies working both in platforms or introducing AI in their supply chain operation. 14 projects already funded. As I said, much more will come. You will have to wait some weeks to know them, but we are really working very hard on these AI projects, and we are really moving very fast on funding projects in AI. So now it's time to speak about the major purpose of the webinar, which is Scale AI research chairs and how to leverage Canada's capacity into AI applied to intelligent supply chains. Our objective is really to provide funding to Canadian universities in an effort to reinforce Canada's position as a global leader in AI. And to do that, we want to achieve 3 objectives. One is obviously we want to increase applied research capacity. That's a very significant point. Why we want to increase it? Because we see that all the time in the field that we are missing researchers. We are missing researchers to work in industry, to work with industry. We are missing researchers to train more students that will ultimately work for industry or become professors. So it's a very important thing to increase applied research capacity. You will see that in our eligibility and selection processes, we'll put a lot of attention into how to increase applied research capacity by adding new competencies to Canadian university ecosystems. The second one is really increase the transfer of knowledge to industry. As Scale AI, we are an industry-based supercluster. It's very important for us to increase the transfer of knowledge to industry, and to do that, we need researchers to step up and being able to spend more time with industry. And part of our criteria by selecting research chairs will be the work the chairs could do with the Scale AI ecosystem. And the third one is very important for our legacy, is really to contribute to attract and retain the world's best researchers and students. We need to prepare for the next generation. We know that professors today will train students that ultimately can become professors tomorrow. and that's very important for Canada. And so these three major objectives are absolutely key for our program. Increasing applied research capacity, and I'm coming back to that. Incrementality is something we're going to look at very closely. Increasing transfer of knowledge to industry, so collaboration in the ecosystem, and obviously having an impact for future generation and retaining talent or developing talent existing in Canada. So that's the three objectives SKLI will have. This slide is a very important one because it describes the way we think about creating these chairs. So first of all, SKLI will invest up to $10 million. Actually, it could be more if we have very interesting projects. We have the capacity today to fund more projects than that. And we want to support at least 10 research chairs in the country. So the mechanism will be as followed. Each chair has to be a $2 million chair over 5 years. So the total value of the chair has to be a minimum of $2 million because that's when chairs become significant, and over 5 years because that's the time you need to do a good chair. On these $2 million, a minimum of $1 million will be paid, up to $1 million will be paid by SKLI, and the way SKLI will do it is SKLI will reimburse eligible costs that will be incurred before end of March 2023. And I will come back to that. The other $1 million will be funded by Canadian university that will host the research chair, and it can be funded by very various means: industry contribution, sponsorship, other funds, university funds. University have complete freedom to fund this $1 million. If I come back to the $1 million paid by SKLI, unfortunately, linked to our contribution agreement, we cannot give grants to anybody. So we have to work based on reimbursing eligible costs. As our convention, our contribution agreement is ending end of March 2023, we can only reimburse eligible costs if they are incurred before end of March 2023. So that's our contribution agreement. We can do nothing about it. So basically what it says is we'll repay costs for the next 2 years, 2.5 years, depending on the beginning of the chair, and then university will pay the other half of the chair. What do we call eligible cost? That's the definition also of our contribution agreement. So it's mainly wages, any type of wages. It can be research funds if these research funds are wages, if they are material, if they are premises, if they are computers. But that cannot be stipends, that cannot be grants. That has to be really wages and everything around wages. That's our contribution agreement. So we know some universities are paying students through wages. That will really be the way for us to fund people in the chair, is using the wage way in a sense, and not the grant way some universities are using. Again, that's not a choice we've made. That's part of our contribution agreement. We can only fund wages. So that's why wages are mainly the eligible costs we can consider. So in a nutshell, we are considering funding chairs for a total value per chair of $2 million over 5 years. SKLI will pay half of it, and basically will pay half of it for the first 2.5 years, and then the university will pay the other half for the following 2.5 years, for a total of $2 million over 5 years. So that's the way it will work. SKLI will pay the first half, university will pay the second half in terms of timing and in terms of amount. So I will now come back more to the mechanism of the program by focusing on the application side, how to apply to the program, and then basically the way the program will be run and program operations. So in terms of application, for every SKLI program, whether project, industrial project, or acceleration, or the talent program, we have always two steps of validation. One is eligibility, the second is selection. The reason we do that is we want to engage a discussion with you to discuss about the project you have, and to be sure that you don't spend time on dead end, or that you spend time really on projects that have a good chance to go through. And so the eligibility criteria, that's really 1 or 0. We really want to tell you, okay, your project is on track or is not on track. To be on track, first of all, it has to be in scope, meaning it has to be a chair working on general AI, and I will let Gilles Savard explaining later what is general AI if you have a question on that. general AI. It has to be in supply chain. We have a broad vision on supply chain. That's a reflection on the project we already validated, but it has to be in the supply chain AI environment. The candidate will be key, so we want to tell you immediately if the candidate makes the cut, in the sense that it has to be a lead candidate of great value and also somebody who will create incrementality. So the person, it's better if the person comes from abroad Canada, outside of Canada, whether it's not a Canadian citizen or not a Canadian citizen. That's very important, because the goal of this program is to really increase the existing capacity physically in Canada on research. So it's not mandatory, but a candidate coming from abroad, whatever its nationality is, will be a strong advantage for the chair and a strong support for the chair. In terms of beneficiaries, we want to see, obviously, who could take benefit of the program, whether university, whether students, whether ecosystem, and readiness. That's a very important one for us, because we want the chair to be ready to take off anywhere between September and end of year 2020. We want to achieve results. We want to spend money fast, because we cannot spend money after the end of March 2023. So it's very important for us that the product is ready and that we can begin immediately. So that's the eligibility criteria. That's 1 or 0. You are in or you're not, but at least we will tell you immediately. Regarding data submission, that's the second wave. You have on the right side, on the right part of the slide, the different criteria that will give a ranking and actually a note to these different programs. The length of the line is really showing the importance of each criteria. So obviously we are going to test alignment with the Scale AI strategy and give a ranking on that. It's important, but most importantly, we'll look at qualification of the lead candidate. We want, as we said, to create extra research capacity in Canada. The lead candidate is absolutely critical, so we'll spend a lot of time and a lot of power, a lot of weight to the qualification of the lead candidate. The quality and structure of the research program also, that's a very important one. We want to fund great academic programs, so we'll put a lot of weight in our ranking in quality and structure of the research program. We'll look at the ecosystem impact. Obviously, we want connection with Scale AI ecosystem. That's part of bringing AI from the lab to the field piece. The ecosystem impact will be an important one. And finally, we look at administration and governance. To be sure, of course, we are talking about public money, but the program is well managed by the university that will host the research chair. So that's the criteria we will use. So now how to apply. From eligibility, very simple. You go to our website, scaleai.ca/formation. That's how to apply. You will have AI Research Chair Program specific page. You will find the eligibility form. You just fill it in, you send it to us, and we'll come back to you as soon as possible to give you a feedback. If it's a yes, everything's fine. If it's a no, we can still tell you what you could change to be eligible, and so that will give you indication programs, and so the way to do it from an eligibility standpoint. On a detailed submission standpoint, that's a bit different procedure. So if you are eligible, and eligible will be confirmed by Scale AI, then and only then we will forward you the detailed submission alongside the program submission guideline. And then you can complete and return the detailed submission, and you can send it to my head of talent into Scale AI, Jean-François Lefort. You can see his mail address, jean.francois.lefort@scaleai.ca. That's his mail address. Of course, we will find it on the Scale AI website. You will have the presentation, but the way it will work is once the eligibility is confirmed, you have the detailed submission form and you can submit it and fill it and to Jean-François. And then I will describe the process. The selection committee will look at that and will grant the chairs. So very simple process. The way it will work, 3 phases. So once you have completed the detailed submission, we'll present, Scalia will decide to present the one that are the best to our selection committee. Selection committee will be composed of independent people from the academic world. One important thing to note is we will not wait 3 months to submit candidates. We'll want to do that on a continuous intake basis. So as soon as you submit, we receive complete detailed submission. When we have a critical mass, let's say 3 or 4, we can summon a selection committee and begin deciding on granting chairs. And at least the selection committee can propose to the board to grant certain chairs, and then we'll continue that way. So you should expect that we are going to announce these 10 chairs or more if you have really excellent candidates on an ongoing basis as soon as we receive submission and we're able to approve. We expect right now to have a selection committee at least one time a month to be sure that we can really look at this intake program and really receive and decide on chairs as soon as they arrive. Once the selection committee has approved, then it goes to the board or a subcommittee of the board who has full authority to decide and ratify the choice of the selection committee. So eligibility can be very simple. Eligibility can take some weeks. Detailed submission, it depends, can take 1, 2, 3 weeks to be well written. But then from a Scale AI perspective, we could decide relatively fast when we go to the board, and the total process between selection committee and the board can take 1 or 2 weeks, depending on time. So our hope is really to deliver the first chair by the end of June, to give approval to people they have a chair. So we want to move fast on that. And so I can only tell you that as soon as you are ready, please don't be shy. Give us, fill eligibility forms, discuss with us, so we can approve chairs as soon as we receive great applications. So once the board has given approval, we'll sign a research chair agreement. It's basically a contribution agreement between university and Scale AI. It will basically describe the roles and responsibilities between university and Scale AI. I want to be very clear on something. Scale AI will not look at once the program is decided, researcher, university have complete freedom on the program. Scale AI will not and never interfere in the research topic themselves. Once we select, you are completely on your own to do your research as submitted in the proposal. The research agreement will give details of the mechanism of the agreement, and then obviously it outlines the key program parameters, including KPIs and timing of submission of KPIs to be compliant from university to Scale AI, because of course Scale AI has to report back to government. So if you look at the calendar, when we have the launch of the share, that's step 1, hopefully somewhere after summer. Then step 2, basically we will try to have, as soon as we can, some involvement with the Scale AI ecosystem. This involvement can have can create various opportunities, can be chair holders participating in industrial program, or sharing knowledge with other shareholders funded by Scale AI, or sharing information or state of the art with other industry during some conferences. So different opportunities that can create involvement between the chair and the Scale AI ecosystem. The step 3 is we'll have to do semi-annual reports from the time the research program is launched. Obviously, we need to fill some information. So we are very conscious that shareholders don't want to report all the time the activity. So we'll try to find the best balance between timing, the constraint we have on our side, and what's acceptable for shareholders in the university context. And the step 4 is obviously, as let's say we quarter typically, the chair will have made some expenses. You will submit your expenses, and the eligible expenses will be reimbursed back by Scale AI. So that's the way the program operation will be built. So that's what I wanted to present you in this presentation. Of course, we are going to answer your question. I really want to reemphasize some of the points. It's a very important program for Scale AI. We really believe in the importance of fundamental research to create value in the industry ecosystem. We really want, by these chairs, to make a difference for the country by having new people coming in, great people coming in Canada that were not in Canada initially, or whatever is their nationality. We really think we can create a difference. Our commitment is to you that we'll validate shares on a continuous basis, continuous intake. In our mind, we think we will have 10 shares for $10 million, but if you force us to do so, we can think broader. It will totally depend on the quality of the proposal we receive for us to decide whether we can go do more than what we presented in the program. So thanks for your attention. I think now it's time for some questions. And so Isabelle, our VP Marketing, will be your voice to ask us your questions.
Yes, thank you, Julien. So we have two questions so far. One, which is, what is the deadline or timeline to submit the first phase of the application to check the eligibility?
So actually, there's no date per se, no date sooner or later. You can submit as soon as you are ready. There's no limit. Of course, if you want to submit something in August, that will be much too late. It's very likely that most of the chair or all the chairs will be awarded, but you can begin theoretically proposing us eligibility tomorrow, and at least for, I would say, reasonably for the next 1 month or something, or 2 months, that will be the good timing to propose us eligibility, considering that eligibility, that's a simple form. Detailed submission will require a bit more work. So as soon as you submit eligibility and as soon as you are accepted, you can dedicate more time for detailed submission. So no date per se, open tomorrow and as soon as you can.
Okay. Second question, can a chair be affiliated to a university that is not a member of Scale AI?
Yes, Gilles, perhaps do you want to answer that? But
no, the answer is yes. It's opening to all universities in Canada.
Yeah, and that's a very important one, meaning we recognize, of course, some universities helped Scale AI to be created, but we are a pan-Canadian supercluster. We want to be open. That's why we are doing this webinar. That's why we are granting 10 chairs, because 10 is much more than the number of universities that committed to Scale AI initially. So that's really to show everybody that we are open to any great candidates for the country, wherever they are members of Scale AI or not.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll give a few seconds if there's anyone that wished to add another question.
Because in French, I began my conclusion, but then we had questions. So that's why we don't want to do 2 times the same conclusion and be sure we answer the question before concluding. So.
Exactly. So we got another one from the University of Waterloo. The process of identifying a candidate may take long as host university will have to advertise first. What is your input into this?
Well, that's a great question, and we know that's part of the complexity of our program. But what I want to tell you also, it's possible you had already discussions with candidates that are not yet in your university. For sure, if you have to begin from zero, that's a bit tougher. But I'm pretty sure in the university, you have already great candidates you were discussing, and discussions were on hold for various reasons, one of them including COVID-19. So it's a unique opportunity with this chair to reconnect with former candidates or people you were not able to attract in the past. Of course, if you have to totally have somebody new, totally with no contact, timing needs to be a bit tough. So, I mean, that's what we know. That's one of the difficulty. Our feeling is that most universities right now have interesting candidates that fit the criteria that were not able to attract for different reasons. And that's a unique opportunity to reach out for these candidates where they had already discussion and attract them using this chair, these Scale AI chairs.
Thank you. We didn't get any other new question. If there's any that comes later on, we'll make sure we respond to each of them. Thank you, Julien.
Well, so again, thank you all. It was great to have you on board. We are really eager to have a lot of competition and to have a great choice. We want you to make our life difficult by choosing great candidates and being forced to choose the best. So please don't be shy. If you have questions, if you want to test some candidates with us, myself, Gilles Savard, or different people in our faculties can definitely help you and give you some tips on about what we are searching for. So don't be shy. Reach out to us. And in the meantime, I hope you will have a great end of week and a great end of day. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for being with us today, and we hope to see you soon.